With more than 5,000 metric tons of propellant loaded, Starship Flight 13's massive Super Heavy booster ignited its engines, and then, almost instantly, the countdown halted in a violent cloud of vapor. Telemetry on the screen revealed the immediate cause. 4 of the booster's 33 Raptor engines failed to ignite on the pad, automatically triggering an abort sequence before the clamps could release. Halting a launch on the pad is an essential engineering victory. It demonstrates a safety mechanism functioning as intended, preserving a multi-billion-dollar vehicle that would otherwise be lost to a mechanical failure in flight. The conditions found outside our atmosphere are so unforgiving that aerospace companies cannot rely on hope. The entire global space industry functions on a relentless, hardware-punishing regime of ground tests. To ensure complex systems survive the vacuum and violence of a launch, engineers have to figure out how to simulate impossible, destructive environments right here on Earth. Running those tests presents an immediate physics problem. You cannot accurately fire a rocket engine optimized for the vacuum of space while it sits at sea-level atmospheric pressure. This cross-section of a rocket nozzle illustrates flow separation. The thick atmospheric pressure pushes back against the expanding exhaust inside a wide vacuum nozzle, creating violent, turbulent swirling that can rip the metal apart. To get around this, Rocket Lab tests their Archimedes engine by removing the extended nozzle entirely. They fire it using a shortened stub skirt, allowing exhaust to exit cleanly while validating the core mechanics. Beyond the engines, the actual structure of the rocket has to prove it can handle the intense physical stress of launch. Relativity Space is testing the main stages of their Terran-R rocket out in the open on a massive stand in their factory parking lot. Engineers pump the massive tanks full of pressurized fluid and use heavy industrial rigs to repeatedly squeeze and stretch the metal. They are simulating the immense mechanical loads the booster will endure when accelerating toward orbit and plunging back through the atmosphere. By combining these engine firings and extreme physical trials, teams successfully trick their hardware into experiencing the brutal forces of a spaceflight, all without leaving the ground. But a stationary test stand cannot validate complex flight software. To solve this, JAXA recently conducted a brief 40-second hop test for their liquid hydrogen-fueled Reusable Vehicle Experiment, or RVX, flying the craft sideways before touching down softly. As this scale comparison shows, this small 7-meter vehicle acts as a pathfinder. It allows engineers to sort out the complex control code for precision landings on a cheaper miniature proxy before risking the much larger 13-meter Callisto rocket currently in development. When human lives are added to the equation, ground testing shifts from protecting hardware to ensuring survival. India's space agency, ISRO, is preparing their Gaganyaan crew capsule for its first uncrewed orbital flights. To verify their descent safety margins, ISRO runs extreme mechanical drop tests. They kick massive mock-up capsules out of cargo airplanes at an altitude of 2.5 kilometers to guarantee their heavy, multi-stage parachutes deploy flawlessly. They also test the immediate aftermath of splashdown. Engineers verify the capsule's uprighting system, large inflatable balloons that deploy to ensure the spacecraft floats in the water with its heavy heat shield facing down, keeping the astronauts properly oriented. Whether dialing in throttle software on a robotic hopper or dropping parachute rigs from an airplane, isolating each potential failure point on a smaller scale is the only reliable way to guarantee the final vehicle comes back intact. Sometimes, the required conditions are so extreme that engineers have to recreate alien worlds in the lab. Take NASA's Dragonfly mission, a planned nuclear-powered helicopter heading for Saturn's largest moon, Titan. Operating on Titan's surface means flying through a freezing environment with a dense atmosphere measuring roughly 1.5 times the pressure of Earth. To ensure the spacecraft will survive, teams at the Johns Hopkins Applied Physics Lab sealed the Dragonfly fuselage inside a specialized test chamber. They subjected the structure to freezing temperatures and heavy atmospheric pressure to verify that none of the seals would crush or leak under those specific conditions. A totally different challenge awaits NASA's Da Vinci probe, a spacecraft tasked with plunging headfirst into the incredibly hot, thick carbon dioxide atmosphere of Venus. Instead of using a pressure chamber, the Da Vinci team created a terrestrial analog. They strapped their delicate testing sensors to a helicopter and performed a 40-minute descent over Crater Island, Utah, The location on Earth they determined was the closest geological match to a Venusian plunge. Exploring the solar system dictates that before a spacecraft can launch, its builders must first hunt down or artificially construct the most hostile analog environments available here at home. These isolated trials of tanks and engines merge during the upcoming Artemis 3 mission, where hardware that was tested separately must finally function as a single unit in the lunar environment. That mission relies on a complex orbital choreography. NASA plans to launch its Orion crew capsule into low Earth orbit, where it will link up directly with Blue Origin's Blue Moon lander. The mission profile then requires a specialized SpaceX Starship to dock with the combined Orion and Blue Moon stack, providing the propulsion needed to push the entire convoy toward the Moon. Even the mission's communications rely on this hardware-first approach. NASA chose to equip Orion with Starlink laser terminals only after validating the technology on experimental test flights. It's a necessary solution to a specific hurdle. Conventional radio links take weeks to transmit the gigabit-scale data that these high-resolution mission sensors now generate. When human boots finally return to the lunar dust, or when a nuclear drone spins its rotors over Titan, the success of those missions is not born on launch day. They are the final, highly visible result of thousands of aborted countdowns, squeezed metal tanks, and simulated drops that happened quietly on the ground years before.